Hello and welcome to Comcast Local Edition. I'm Robert Traynham. Joining us today here in Annapolis is Delegate Tom Hucker, who represents Maryland's District 20. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with a topic that's very important to all Marylanders,
Sure.
and that's education. It's my understanding that you have a piece of legislation that deals with this important issue.
Well, I do. I want to make sure everybody knows the good news is Education Week magazine has now decided Maryland has the best schools of any state in the country.
Why is that?
They do a very thorough ranking each year and rate all the schools on a whole variety of criteria from K through 12, and we've been moving up in the rankings. We were number 3 last year, now we're number 1. And it's a vindication for those of us who've been pushing to raise the revenue, to invest in our schools, and make sure that all the kids are really ready to learn. The bad news is kids graduate every year. We got to make sure the kids are in the pipeline are ready to excel at school as well. So I have a bill to expand pre-K opportunities, pre-kindergarten, so we can get that to all the kids in Maryland.
How soon do you believe that this bill will pass and get signed into law?
Well, this year's bill I'm hopeful will pass this year. It doesn't cost any money. It takes the draft pre-K for all plan that the Department of Education has already passed, makes them finalize it, makes them do a good cost estimate so that we're in a much better position to access the federal money that President Obama is making available for pre-kindergarten across the country. He's a real believer in it. He's going to invest $10 billion. We have to be in a position to compete with Virginia and D.C., who have already passed their own pre-K, for universal pre-K bills.
All right, switching gears for a few moments. You know, we often hear about blue-collar jobs and white-collar jobs, but there's a new vernacular out there, and that's green-collar jobs.
Right.
It's also my understanding that you have your thumb in that as well.
Yeah, there's a bill under discussion. We're working with the Maryland Energy Administration to make sure that they are creating the workforce training opportunities so that the Maryland workforce is getting retrained. A lot of people are switching jobs in this difficult economy. We have to make sure that we have the trained workers to access all the green jobs that are getting created, putting down broadband, creating windmills, creating solar power, all those sort of opportunities haven't been always available to Marylanders. We got to make sure the training is there to make sure that our workforce is ready to access those jobs. And a second bill I have is to expand broadband across the state. It's really important not just to make sure that people can surf the web, but make sure that we have very modern video content in every classroom. Make sure that in any hospital you go to in Maryland, those doctors out in Salisbury or Western Maryland can access by video uplink the best specialists at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And so as an economic development issue and as a creator of green jobs, we're going to map the whole state and make sure we know where the broadband is, where the holes are, and what the cost is, so we can make decisions about, as policymakers, to get broadband to every citizen in Maryland.
Delegate, you mentioned the cost. Who pays for something like this?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It only costs about $300,000 to map out the whole state, and we haven't done that. A lot of other states have, and we haven't. Now, President Obama is offering people a 4-to-1 match. So if we just find $60,000 in Maryland, which, as an economic stimulus, that's a very good investment, we now can draw down 4-to-1 match from the federal government to get the state mapped out, and then providers like Comcast and others can figure out how to get broadband to all the gaps in the state that aren't where it's not currently available.
What other economic development programs are you working on?
That's the main one. That would create a lot of new jobs, especially in areas of the state that are kind of challenged right now.
Do you know about how
Eastern
many
Shore,
jobs?
Western Maryland. They haven't done an estimate yet, but we think it's certainly in the thousands. It kind of depends on what the map shows, how many gaps are there, and it will also speak to what the cost and how much competition there is. So we as policymakers can really make good decisions about how to make sure broadband, like I said, is accessible to libraries, the schools, the hospitals. They all want it, and they don't often have access to the technology that they want. So this is a real first step to see what the roadmap looks like.
We have about 20 seconds left. About
Sure.
How soon do you think that these jobs will actually be created? Do you think it's going to be sometime this year in 2009, next year 2010, or further away?
Probably over the next couple of years, as we see where the gaps are. And I also got a couple good bills to make sure that consumers know what kind of furs are available. There's a lot of fake fur on the market, labeled as fake fur. People want to do the right thing and buy fake fur. Some of it's made out of dogs, unfortunately, and going unlabeled. And there's also a bill I'm doing to make sure people can have wine shipped to their house. 38 states, consumers in 38 states can have wine shipped to their house, and it's not available to Maryland consumers.
Delegate Tom Hucker, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Robert.
And for more information about what Comcast is doing in your community, be sure to click on the On Demand button and then get local. As always, thanks for watching. Take care.